Heartwarming moment at wedding. Single dad discovers inspiring date in wheelchair-bound so James sat at his cramped booth in the local diner, staring blankly at the twinkling fairy lights through the window. His two kids, bursting with energy as they played a game of tag outside, were oblivious to the weight on their father's shoulders. The bills didn't pay themselves, and his shifts seemed to stretch left and right like a rubber band ready to snap. That very evening, a wedding invitation from his sister slipped beneath his door, gold lettering on thick cardstock. "You can't break family ties, can you?" He laughed bitterly to himself. Yet still, he tugged at his heartstrings, deciding to attend. As he arrived at the wedding, the air buzzed with romance, laughter, clinking glasses, and beautiful music danced around him. It felt like stepping into a world where dreams flourished, while he stood on the fringes with exhaustion weighing heavily on his heart. That's when he saw her, a stunning woman in a gorgeous dress, elegantly maneuvering through the crowd in her wheelchair. Her name was Sarah. She was a CEO and effortlessly captivating. They found themselves seated together at a round table adorned with flowers that seemed to bloom with happiness. They started talking, their connection igniting against the backdrop of love and celebration. James told stories of his kids' antics, their laughter enclosing him like a warm hug. In return, Sarah dazzled him with tales of her resilience, the motorcycle accident that reshaped her life, but never her spirit. They shared vulnerabilities, each feeling a kindred spark. But all was not sunshine. Whispers began to snake through the air. Some guests gazed disapprovingly, judging James's humble, tired appearance, while others whispered about Sarah's polished exterior juxtaposed against her wheelchair. They were bound by different struggles, yet shackled by similar judgments. Could their growing bond survive the critical eyes around them? Just as a heartfelt toast began, chaos erupted. An argument flared between family members, revealing cracks in both James's world and Sarah's. The guests quickly turned from admiration to judgment, and James felt the tug-of-war between his loyalty to family and the budding feelings he had for Sarah. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night darkened, James grappled with the moment. Did he dare embrace this sudden flicker of happiness that Sarah ignited within him, or would he allow himself to be defeated by societal expectations and family loyalty? Tension hung thick in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. James was on the edge, poised to leap toward love or retreat into the shadows of doubt. Would they have the courage to break free from judgment and the chains of their past? Or would the night extinguish the fragile flame they had ignited in one another? James felt his heart race as the argument escalated between his relatives. The boisterous laughter and rhythm of joy had become distant memories, drowned by the tidal wave of familial discord. He caught Sarah's eye across the table. Her expression mirrored his internal turmoil, disappointment mixed with determination. The wedding celebration, meant to unite and inspire, had suddenly morphed into a battlefield. He could see how their connection had been a bright light in an otherwise challenging night, but now that light flickered under the weight of disapproval. Part of him wanted to escape, to grab the kids and leave this chaotic scene, but the pull he felt towards Sarah was undeniable. Taking a deep breath, James turned his attention back to her, trying to hold on to the moments that mattered. "Do you want to get out of here?" he asked, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. For a brief moment, Sarah's eyes widened in surprise, then she smiled, a glimmer of hope flashing through the storm. "I'd love that," she replied softly. James pushed his chair back, and they maneuvered through the throng of guests, navigating past clenched jaws and raised voices. As they reached the open air, the night sky greeted them with a canopy of stars, illuminating the quiet beauty of the world outside the din of familial disputes. It felt like stepping into a fresh chapter, away from judgment and expectations. "I love how peaceful it is out here," Sarah breathed, taking in the night. Sometimes the noise can drown out everything important. There was a sweetness to her words, a shared understanding. James nodded, feeling exhilarated yet vulnerable. It was a calculated risk taking this step into the unknown, but it felt right. Maybe we need a little peace, he admitted, glancing at her and realizing how much he wanted to know more about this incredible woman. As they chatted under the stars, the tension from the wedding faded into the background. Sarah spoke passionately about her work and the changes she wanted to bring to her company, her energy infectious. James found himself leaning closer, captivated not just by her words, but by the strength in her spirit. I used to believe that my accident would define my life, but I learned that we can shape our paths despite challenges, she said, her eyes sparkling with conviction. It struck a chord in James, stirring something deep inside him. He felt a similar longing to reshape his own life, to break free from the arduous cycle he found himself in. But just when he thought they had reached a moment of clarity, a memory jolted him. A buzz from his phone broke their spell. It was a message from his sister, filled with disdain for his absence at the family drama. "You're missing your family," it read. The guilt seeped in, pulling him back toward his old life, the weight of expectation rekindling the fire of doubt. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed in concern. James hesitated, taking in her thoughtful expression. "I'm just torn," he admitted, the vulnerability chipping away at his guarded heart. "My family, they have their expectations. It's hard to break free from that." Sarah reached out, her hand gently resting on his. "Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most beautiful outcomes," she whispered, and in that moment, the storm inside him began to calm. Yet, just as hope flickered back to life, a commotion emanated from inside the hall, drawing both of their gazes. A figure emerged, clearly upset James's sister, her expression a mix of anger and desperation. He felt his pulse quicken again. The night was far from over, and he couldn't escape it. As he turned toward Sarah, he knew one thing. He needed to make a choice. What would he risk for the chance of love? Would he stand up for the bond they shared, or retreat once more? The weight of the world seemed to balance precariously on his decision. Sarah's voice trembled slightly, pulling him from his thoughts. He looked at her, feeling the gravity of the moment. How would this night change them? Would he be bold enough to face both his family and his growing feelings for Sarah? Everything hung in the balance, and the next step could alter their fates forever. James took a deep breath, feeling the chill of the night air against his skin. The confrontation would happen soon. His sister's stormy expression echoed in his mind, a warning shot across the bow of the peace he'd just begun to build with Sarah. "Maybe we should go inside," he whispered, his heart racing. But Sarah's hand on his felt reassuring. It kept him in the moment, reminding him where he truly wanted to be. "No," she said softly but firmly. "You don't have to rush back into that chaos. First, listen to your heart." Her words hung in the air, a lifeline. What did he truly want? The thought of turning back to that room filled with shouting and blame filled him with dread. Yet the loyalty to family, the obligation, did it run deeper than the fluttering connection he felt with Sarah? "Do you ever face that?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Wanting to follow your heart, but feeling tied to something else?" Sarah's eyes softened. "All the time," she admitted. "I used to let those feelings dictate my decisions, but then I realized I was sacrificing my happiness. Life is too short for that." As the words spilled from her lips, James felt a flicker of hope. Could he really redefine who he was? Was there a way to honor his family, but not lose himself in the process? "Maybe you're right," he replied, still wrestling with doubt. She deserved honesty, not the wall of uncertainty he often built around himself. "I haven't lived for myself in a long time. It's like I'm stuck." "Well, get unstuck," Sarah urged, her determination igniting a fire within him. "You deserve to explore who you are beyond your family's expectations. And I want to help you embrace that." Their gazes locked, and for a moment, the world melted away. Outside, crickets chirped a soothing melody, and the stars blinked down at them like watchful guardians. Uncertainty and fear began to melt under the warmth of their shared moment. But then a sudden shout from the hall threatened to break the spell. "James, are you really going to leave us like this?" His sister's voice sliced through the night, cutting deep into his resolve. James frowned, the weight of her disappointment crashing into him. He could feel the tug of loyalty as his heart raced. But then he glanced at Sarah, who was watching him with a steady gaze. Her faith in him shone brighter than the stars above. Your choice matters, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't let fear eclipse your dreams. Stand up for what you want. His sister stalked towards them, her anger dancing like fire. In that moment, James faced the reality of his situation. Would he shrink back and let the tide of family obligation control him again? Or would he take a step into the new future Sarah offered? He opened his mouth to respond, to declare his intent, but the sounds of footsteps echoed behind his sister, another wave of family urgency cresting. Don't let her do this to you, Sarah said, concern etched across her face. You have to choose. James took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he was on the brink of something transformative. What would he say? How would he confront this moment? The confrontation loomed, and as he stepped forward, gripping Sarah's hand tighter, something changed within him. What do I want? He thought again, each repetition fueling his determination. Would he finally find the courage to prioritize happiness? The moment of truth began right then, but would it bring the love he craved, or would familial bonds drag him back into the shadows? With his family's gaze fixed on him and Sarah standing firm by his side, he was poised for an answer, but the real question remained. Was he ready to fight for it? James's chest tightened as his sister approached, her face a storm of fury and hurt. He could see the friends and relatives forming a hesitant circle behind her, anticipating the impending fallout. The air crackled with tension, the night suddenly feeling thicker than before. Are you giving up on us? She accused, her voice strong enough to make his heart sink. After everything we've been through? He glanced at Sarah, whose hand remained clasped around his, providing a grounding presence thanks to the warmth radiating from her grasp. She nodded slightly, as if to say, You can do this. James swallowed hard, the weight of family duty pressing down like a leaden coat. I don't want to give up, he replied, his voice steady but strained. But I need to find myself outside of this pressure. I can't keep living for everyone else. His sister's features softened for a mere heartbeat before her resolve solidified again. You think it's easy for us? You think we can just move on without you? Maybe it's time for us all to rethink how we define family, Sarah interjected, her voice a soothing balm amidst the chaos. Staying true to yourself doesn't mean leaving people behind. It means bringing your true self into the fold. James felt the energy shift slightly. There was a glimmer in his sister's eyes as if she was contemplating Sarah's words. But you're my brother, she argued, desperation creeping into her voice. You're supposed to stick with us. We've always been a team. And I'm still here. James stepped forward, empowering himself with the belief that honesty needed to replace obligation. But part of being a good brother means I have to be happy too. Can't you see? I can still love you all and make choices for my own life. The crowd held its breath, waiting for a reaction. Family loyalty hung heavy in the air, yet so did the potential for change. Is that really what you want? His sister asked, her own resolve wavering. To be out there completely alone? I want to be alone, James assured her, searching for clarity in the moment. He gestured to Sarah. I have someone in my corner. Someone who believes in me. Her eyebrows furrowed as she looked towards Sarah, uncertainty flickering through her expression. For the first time, James sensed a shift from anger toward a simmering understanding. But what if she hurts you? James took a deep breath, ready to shed his fears like a snake shedding its skin. What if she doesn't? What if embracing this path finally leads me to the happiness I've been missing? The sincerity of his words hung in the air around them. For a moment, the tension was replaced by a charged silence, broken only by the distant crackling of leaves stirred by the night breeze. His sister blinked, and something flickered behind her eyes. I just don't want to lose you, she admitted, voice smaller than before. You know we need you. If you think that holding on too tight might break us, then maybe we need to learn to let go a little, James urged, feeling the trembling hope in his chest buoy him up. We can find a way forward together. We just have to trust each other more. Her walls began to crack, and for an instant, he glimpsed the sibling bond they had shared so often as children. But just as she opened her mouth to speak, the sharp sound of breaking glass shattered the moment, and all heads turned toward the chaos erupting from the house. James's heart leaped. What was that? As voices raised in distress, he felt Sarah's hand tighten around his. Whatever had happened inside felt like an urgent call to act. Stay close, he assured her, as adrenaline surged within him. We may need each other now more than ever. And as they turned to face the uncertain chaos ahead, James couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would redefine not just his relationship with his family, but possibly his future with Sarah too. Would they step forward together into whatever storm awaited them? The glass crunched underfoot like shattering promises, sharp and unexpected. James felt a surge of adrenaline push him forward as the crowd buzzed with confusion. "What happened?" he muttered, trying to move toward the commotion in the house. "Maybe it was an accident," Sarah suggested, but her voice wavered and betrayed her anxiety. He could feel her heart racing beside him as they neared the entrance to the house. A cacophony of shouting voices grew louder, and a disheveled cousin stumbled through the door, his face pale, as though he'd seen a ghost. "It's in the living room. You have to see," he gasped, blinking as he looked back at the chaos behind him. James's mind raced. What could possibly have transpired that would send their family into such a tailspin? He exchanged a quick glance with Sarah, who nodded with steely determination. They entered the living room, and what they found there sent a jolt of ice through James's veins. Some relatives had already gathered around a large, overturned table. A couple of chairs were scattered about, and the usual fluff of decorations lay strewn across the floor like a forgotten celebration. In the center of the room, their elderly grandmother was sitting on the floor, one leg splayed awkwardly, the other bent beneath her, eyes wide with shock, yet oddly calm. "Grandma!" James rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside her, panic and concern flooding his chest. "What happened? Are you okay?" She blinked slowly, her gaze shifting between his face and the mess around her. "Oh, darling, just slipped a bit. I might have kicked the table over." Her chuckle was a weak attempt at humor, but it brought a wave of relief washing over him. James helped her up, feeling the extraordinary weight lift as he got her back on her feet. "You had us worried sick. Are you sure you're all right?" "Just a little embarrassed," she replied, her words laced with that familiar, comforting warmth he loved. "Everyone has been so lovely, planning this celebration. It's all too much. But I promise I'm fine, sweetheart." As the family members breathed out their relief, his sister caught sight of him from the other side of the room. The anger and hurt that had filled her expression before were now replaced with concern. She edged closer, her movements tentative. "I thought something terrible happened," she admitted, wiping a stray tear from her eye. "We're okay, really," James assured her, his voice more a whisper now. He caught sight of Sarah, still standing somewhat back, her brow furrowed in concentration as she processed the situation. "Are you all right?" Sarah called gently, taking a step forward. Their grandmother smiled again, a beam of light cutting through the dim uncertainty of the room. "I'm more concerned about all your worries than my little fall." She winked. "Trust me, I'm tougher than I look." The collective laughter that erupted from the room felt cleansing. As they all shared a moment of relief, James's heart lightened, and he turned his gaze to Sarah. He could see her shoulders relax, her face breaking into a smile. The idea of family and the support they could give one another began to evolve in his mind. "What just happened here?" James said, addressing the group. "Might have been a wake-up call. We need to realize we are all here for one another, even when things get a bit shaky." He felt the intensity of the moment, the truth of his words resonating as he looked at each person gathered there. But just as they began to settle, the doorbell rang, interrupting the newfound calm. Everyone turned toward the entrance, curiosity rippling through the crowd. Who could that be? James wondered aloud, a fresh wave of uncertainty washing over him. Would this next visitor bring more chaos, or something different entirely? As he walked toward the door, he could hear the low murmurs behind him, his heart thumping loudly in his chest. Each ring of the doorbell felt like a question hanging in the air. What awaited him on the other side? Would it lead to healing or further upheaval? James reached for the doorknob, his fingers trembling slightly. Each tick of his heart echoed in his ears, building an anxious anticipation. As he opened the door, the cool evening air brushed against his face, almost as if urging him on. Standing there was a woman, dressed in a simple yet elegant red dress that seemed to glow under the porch lights. She was leaning on a sleek wheelchair, a look of determination and grace etched across her features. Her hair was a cascade of golden curls, framing a face that radiated warmth and resilience. "Hi, I'm Emma," she said, her voice bright despite the cool air. I know this might sound odd, but I was at the park earlier, and I received a little nudge from the universe to come here to this celebration. James caught his breath, struggling to find the right words. Hi, I'm James. Can I help you with something? Oh, it's just that I overheard your celebration inside. It's quite lively. I thought I'd join if it's all right. She hesitated, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Of course, you're welcome. James stepped aside, motioning for her to come in. As she wheeled past him, he felt a strange sense of hope blooming in his chest, the kind he hadn't felt in a long time. Within moments, Emma was at the center of attention, her spirit lighting up the room. Family members gathered around, listening attentively as she shared stories of her adventures traveling to places most only dreamt of, overcoming challenges with humor and grace. Every laugh she drew reminded James of how laughter could act as both a bridge and a salve. Inspiring people has become my passion, Emma said, her voice steady. There is so much strength in vulnerability. I believe we all have the ability to lift each other up. Look at you all, this family is incredible. James noticed Sarah's expression shift from puzzled to captivated. He watched as Emma poured her energy into the crowd, easily breaking the ice, encouraging laughter, and rekindling the warmth that they had nearly lost in the chaos moments before. Yet even amidst the merriment, a knot anchored in the back of his mind. Who was this woman really? A stranger, yet she seemed to understand the tangled emotions that had just unfolded within the family. As she looked at his grandmother with a gentle smile, he felt a connection that was deeper than mere coincidence. James, why don't you introduce her to Grandma? Sarah suggested, excitement tinging her voice. With a nod, he moved toward his grandmother, who was seated comfortably, smiling at the commotion. Grandma, meet Emma. Let us say fate brought her here tonight. Emma leaned in, her expression sincere. I'd love to hear about your life and experiences, she said, her words wrapping around the room like a warm blanket. As Grandma began to recount stories from her youth, James found himself stealing glances at Emma, intrigued by the way her eyes lit up with each tale. He felt a sense of lightness, a bubbling excitement that was both new and comforting. But when Emma jokingly threw in a challenge about living life to the fullest, James sensed a deeper truth lurking beneath her words. His heart raced as he considered the possibility of exploring that truth. Was there something more than just the warmth of family in the shadows of the night? Then, just as he tried to process all these newfound feelings, the power flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps came from all sides, and for a moment, everything felt suspended in time as darkness enveloped them. The sound of laughter turned into murmurs, filling the void. James's chest tightened with uncertainty and hope, both battling for his heart's attention. Let's not let a little darkness stop the celebration. Emma's voice broke through the stillness, a beacon of light. James felt the spark within him flare up again as he chuckled. Right, let us light up the night. But as he reached for a candle, a louder noise echoed from outside, a crash followed by a scream. What now? He thought, anxiety creeping back in as his pulse raced once again. What awaited him on the other side of the door, beyond the veil of darkness? What other surprises lay in store for this night that was turning into something so much more than a simple gathering? James's heart pounded in his chest as he hesitated, the flickering light of the candle still unlit in his hands. The sounds outside echoed, sharp and jarring, slicing through the warmth that had just begun to envelop the room. Should I check? He asked, glancing back at the others, uncertainty painted across his face. Before anyone could respond, Emma raised her voice, steady as a rock. I'll come with you. The determination in her tone ignited something in James, pushing aside his instinct to protect her, to keep this vibrant glow in the room safe and sound. They stepped out onto the porch together, the sudden rush of night air sending shivers through him. The stars twinkled above, like distant spectators to the drama unfolding. He glanced at Emma. Her eyes were wide, shimmering with curiosity rather than fear. Stay close, James urged, unwilling to let her disappear into the shadows as they approached the source of the chaos. He noticed a figure sprawled on the ground near the bottom of the steps. A second later, his stomach twisted. It was Sam, the neighbor's teenage daughter, crumpled beside her bike, crying out in pain. What happened? James knelt beside her, fear gripping tightly at the edges of his mind. I lost control. It's my ankle, she stammered through tears, and James could see the awkward angle of her foot. Panic surged in him, but he took a breath. He knew panic wouldn't help her now. It's okay, Sam. I'm here, he said gently, trying to mask the worry swirling inside him. Emma joined them, wheeling closer, her expression a mixture of compassion and resolve. Can you tell us what hurts the most? She asked Sam in a calm, soothing voice, as if they were in a hospital rather than out on the porch. My ankle, Sam cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. With Emma's quick thinking, they carefully assessed the situation. Emma leaned forward, encouraging Sam to focus on breathing deeply, her soothing voice cutting through Sam's sobs. It's going to be all right, Emma assured her, and James marveled at the way she commanded the moment. Her presence, with its surprising blend of strength and gentleness, filled the night. Once James secured his phone to call for help, Emma calmly suggested, "Let us apply some pressure to stabilize the ankle." Together, they made a makeshift splint, using a towel and a stick they found lying nearby. You're strong, Sam. Where were you racing to? Emma asked, lightness in her voice, as if they were sharing secrets between friends rather than in the midst of an emergency. I wanted to join the guys at the skate park. Sam managed to smile through the tears. But I guess I'm stuck here now. Sounds like some serious fun. Lucky for you, we can bring the fun to you. James chimed in, his voice feigning a light-hearted tone. Even though adrenaline pulsed through his veins, as the hours passed, and the sirens wailed closer, James felt the camaraderie strengthening between them. The weight of the night shifted somewhat. It felt lighter alongside Emma. When the paramedics arrived, he shot a look at her, gratitude swelling in his chest. You were incredible. I don't know how I would have handled that without you. Emma smiled, her golden curls catching the dim light. Sometimes, we just need each other. I think we all have that power. Just as relief washed over him, a sudden thought pierced through the moment. Do you want to join me for coffee after this? The words slipped out of his mouth before he could catch them, surprise flickering across Emma's features. Are you asking me on a date? She teased, her eyes sparkling. James chuckled nervously, his heart racing again, but for a different reason this time. Maybe I am. The moment was electric, the night unfolding in strange, unforeseen ways. Let us see what happens next, Emma said, a hint of mischief in her voice. But just as they turned to head back to the house, another crash echoed from the dark, a sound even more ominous than the first. What in the world now? James thought, a rising dread creeping back in. What else could this night have in store for them? James swallowed hard, his pulse quickening again as he turned back toward the noise. Emma stood beside him, her body tense, but her eyes remained fierce with determination. What was that? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know, but we should check it out, he replied, gripping her hand instinctively. The feel of her warm skin gave him a sense of courage, despite the foreboding shadows that loomed over the porch. They moved cautiously down the steps, the night air thick with uncertainty. The crash had sounded like something heavy had toppled over. As they walked further, faint whispers and rustlings hinted that they might not be alone. You feel that? Emma murmured, her breath hitching slightly. James nodded, his heart racing. Stay close. Each step felt like they were heading deeper into the unknown, a mix of adrenaline and worry coursing through him. As they rounded the corner of the house, the beam from the porch light caught a glint of something metallic. Wait, what is that? Emma pointed, her voice steady despite the apprehension painting her features. James squinted into the dim glow, slowly approaching. There, lying on the ground, was a bicycle and, beside it, an overturned trash can. He moved closer and gasped as he noticed something else, a disheveled figure clenching a backpack, trying to gather its contents. Hey, James shouted, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. What are you doing? The figure flinched, dropping the last of the items, a flimsy sandwich wrapper, and turned. In the faint light, James could see it was a boy, probably not much older than Sam. His eyes darted nervously back and forth. I was just, the boy stammered, panicked. I didn't mean to scare anyone. I was just trying to grab my stuff before anyone noticed. Emma stepped beside James, determination back in her voice. You almost gave us a heart attack, kid. What happened? I swear, I was just riding my bike and it slipped in the leaves. The trash can fell over, and I didn't mean to make a mess. He looked genuinely frightened now. I thought my mom would kill me. James's heart softened at the boy's fear. Hey, it's okay. Accidents happen. But you still scared us. With Emma beside him, James felt that spark of connection blossom. If you want, he suggested, we can help you. I'm James, and this is Emma. What is your name? Lucas, he replied hesitantly, glancing warily between them. We'll get your stuff together. Don't worry about the trash can, Emma assured him, her voice gentle. Just bikes and accidents. Those are just part of growing up. Lucas started to relax, and a hint of a smile broke through as he nodded. For the next few moments, they worked together, James and Emma guiding Lucas through his embarrassment while keeping an eye on the roadways around them. As Lucas gathered his scattered belongings, James caught Emma's eye. In that fleeting moment, the world felt smaller, more intimate. She grinned back, mirroring his sentiment. The lightness of the moment was abruptly shattered when the sound of sirens echoed sharply from the other direction. James looked up, a strangling dread creeping back in. The night's chaos was far from over. What could that be about? Lucas asked, his brows knitting together. Emma and James exchanged a glance, worry settling in their stomachs. We should check on Sam, Emma suggested, looking back toward the house that they moved. James could barely shake the feeling that tonight was only beginning to unravel its hidden depths. Knowing something more awaited them, he quickened his pace. Stay close, all of you. We have to stick together, he said, determination hardening his resolve. Just as he turned to reassure Emma, the shadows shifted again near the edge of the property. A figure slipped from the darkness, and as the streetlight flickered, James's breath caught. With a racing heart, he thought, who is it now? The night held its secrets tightly, and he sensed they were about to be revealed. James's heart raced as he squinted to get a better look at the figure emerging from the shadows. A chill shot through him, the air laced with unspoken apprehension. Who are you? He called out, trying to sound confident despite the tightening in his chest. Emma stepped closer, her body slightly shielding Lucas behind her. The figure halted, suddenly illuminated by the flickering streetlight. It was a girl, slightly older than Lucas, with wild hair tangled by the wind. Her expression was a mix of fear and defiance, as if she was ready to bolt at any moment. I'm sorry, she stammered, glancing nervously at the trash can and bike strewn on the ground. I didn't mean to intrude. Are you okay? Emma asked, her voice softening, sensing the girl's distress. The girl hesitated, her eyes darting between James, Emma, and Lucas. I just wanted to get away. Things got too loud back there. James felt a wave of sympathy wash over him. The sirens had escalated, and he could almost taste the tension in the air. Want to talk about it? We're not here to judge, he said, trying to encourage her with a reassuring tone. I'm Ava, she finally answered, her body relaxing just a bit. I was at a party down the street, but it got out of hand. Her voice wobbled slightly. I couldn't handle it anymore. James nodded, struggling to relate. Parties could feel overwhelming sometimes, especially when they exploded with drama or tension. What kind of party? He asked, curiosity mixing with concern. She bit her lip, glancing toward Lucas briefly. Just a stupid high school thing. Too much noise. My friends, they didn't follow me when I wanted to leave. Emma glanced at James, then back at Ava. So you decided to bike away? She asked gently. Yeah, I didn't even get far before I crashed into the trash can, Ava muttered, embarrassment creeping back to her cheeks. Lucas, feeling a connection despite his own embarrassment, chimed in. We've all had accidents. That's just part of it. James smiled, heart warmed by Lucas's simple compassion. No one is judging. You know, sometimes the most chaotic moments just lead to unexpected friendships. For a moment, their gaze lingered on each other, forming a fragile bond amid the chaos. The weight of the night lightened slightly, but as the sirens grew louder, filling the air with uncertainty, James felt that familiar knot tightening again. We should see what's going on. It's south, all still too close to home. Ava nodded, newfound determination cutting through her initial fear. I'll go with you. I don't want to be alone. No one needs to be alone, Emma said firmly. We'll stick together. With Lucas beside her and James leading the way, the four of them moved closer to the commotion. Shadows danced along the edges of the porch, whispers of laughter and shouting blurring into one chaotic soundtrack. As they reached the end of the driveway, James caught a glimpse of flashing lights reflecting off the silver of parked cars. The sight sent adrenaline surging through him. Stay close, he reminded them again, gripping Emma's hand tighter. In the distance, an upstairs window of the neighboring house flared to life, an older man stepping onto the porch, a worried look on his face. The night had become both terrifying and thrilling, veiled in uncertainty. Do you think it's just a party gone wrong? Lucas asked, his voice small. I hope that's all it is, James said, glancing at Emma. But deep down, he knew something more was unfolding. The night promised secrets and revelations, and they were about to confront them head-on. Just then, a voice rang out from the chaos, startling them. Hey, wait! The call echoed, and the crackle of fear mixed with the excitement coursed through the air. James turned, curiosity piqued once more. What had they stumbled into now? As the group edged closer to the pulsating lights and commotion, dread intermingled with an inexplicable thrill. James could feel the building anticipation, the kind that ripples before a storm. What could possibly be going on? He pondered, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. Suddenly, a few figures burst forth from the crowd. It was Eric, a friend of his sister, with wild eyes and disheveled hair. James! Emma! He shouted, rushing toward them. You have to see this. It's crazy. Crazy? James echoed, with a sense of foreboding. He exchanged glances with Emma, who remained steady beside him. Is everyone okay? Sort of, Eric said, breathless. He gestured wildly. Come on. You won't believe it. Just as they followed Eric into the unfolding chaos, a familiar voice cut through the noise. James. Emma. What is happening? It was Sarah, her face drawn tight with worry. James felt a swell of gratitude wash over him as he noticed how she searched the scene for him. Not sure yet, but we're finding out, he replied, instinctively reaching for her hand and pulling her into the group. The urgency fortified him, knitting them all together like a safety net entwined with unspoken support. As they moved further into the crowd, the flash of emergency lights illuminated the faces of concerned neighbors and anxious friends. What happened? James pressed, scanning the gathering for more information. Mike, someone muttered from the gathering. He got into a fight with some guy from the other school, and then everyone just panicked. Finished another voice. A wave of concern washed over James. Mike is okay, right? The crowd became a fluctuating sea of anxiety, and he could feel the weight of it pressing down on him. Let us find out. Guided by instinct, he urged the group to follow Eric further into the fray. It was hard to breathe as the noise swelled. Emotions were raw, and the pulse of uncertainty drummed relentlessly. Then, they saw him, a familiar face crumpled on the ground. Another boy looming over him as paramedics rushed in. Panic and adrenaline gripped James. He recognized Mike, bruised yet defiant. James rushed forward instinctively, pushing through the crowd. Mike, he called, kneeling beside him. Hey, are you okay? Mike struggled to sit up, a mix of defiance and embarrassment etched across his features. Just a little scrape, man. I'll be fine, he said, though the tremor in his voice betrayed the truth that James's heart softened at the sight. Beneath the bravado, Mike was just a kid, grappling with difficult emotions and teenage turbulence, just like everyone else. Before he could respond, a comforting hand landed on his shoulder. It was Sarah, her presence grounding him. You're not alone, Mike. We're here. As the paramedics assessed the scene, James felt warmth spread within him, a sense of solidarity rippling like a tide through the group. Mate in chaos forged unexpected bonds, and he realized just how interconnected their lives had become despite the divisions earlier in the night. Soon, as the commotion settled, Mike flashed a crooked smile of gratitude, stirring laughter amongst the group. Guess I learned my lesson, he said, attempting a joke that lightened the air. James chuckled, a relief washed over him. Right, don't rush into fights, Emma chimed in playfully. Or bring your emotions to a fist fight, Lucas added, winning a round of chuckles. And at that moment, laughter cascaded through the crowd like the sun breaking through storm clouds. For James, it felt as if a weight shattered, like the night had pulled back a veil to reveal the connections they all shared, threading them together amid the chaos. You know, Sarah said, leaning in close to James, in moments of uncertainty, we discover our strength, our courage. He turned to face her, feeling a profound connection that had grown in the night. You're right, he replied, his heart swelling with realization. Maybe we shouldn't try to fit into what society expects. Maybe it's time to embrace who we are. With the night unfolding into something new, he felt ready to face whatever came next. Laughter, camaraderie, understanding the weight toward the healing moments rebooted beneath a canopy of indulgent stars. As the sirens faded into the background, their little family around them, this extraordinary group that had arrived from random chaos, became something akin to home. "Let us celebrate what we have," James said, glancing at the group assembled around him. The warmth of their smiles felt like a family he had longed for, stitching together the tattered edges of his life. "Together," Emma said, warmth radiating from her, her gaze locked on his. "That's all that matters." And as the night wore on, they found comfort in unexpected alliances. In vibrant laughter ringing out under the stars, a moment of truth blossomed, breathing in the joy of connection. James reached for Sarah's hand, holding it tightly, the simple squeeze radiating electric warmth. Just outside the chaos, they finally stepped into the comfort of love, a path less tangled, in which they would continue to journey hand in hand. As they all hugged around Mike, who was slowly regaining confidence, James felt joy bloom within him, a feeling he wouldn't give up for anything now. This was a moment worth embracing. And before leaving the gathering, one last ripple surged through him. If the world outside was loud and chaotic, they could create a little peace and acceptance right here, rewriting their stories and building a family of support together. As they turned to walk back, laughter buoying them up, James knew one thing. Life would throw more challenges ahead, but together, they could face them all. So, to everyone watching, embrace the moments that make you feel alive. Connect with the ones you love, and don't let anyone dim your light. And if you've enjoyed this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love. Comment below your feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. We are all in this together.